What is one red flag that, if seen during an interview, would make you decline a job offer? I had a job offer me and paid bonus hours as a form of community service. Reminded me of seeing a job posting that said with the position you'd enjoy the variety of working various shifts, holidays and weekends as needed. Yes, because that's something that anyone would enjoy. You decide how much you make. I agree, meaning if you take this job, it'll be brutal work to go over minimum wage. If they stumble over what the exact job description is, or say we'll work that out later. Was invited to interview for a remote position, but did some research and found out they made employees install software that took a photo of their face every 9 minutes to ensure they weren't goofing off. Can you imagine? I don't want my employer to have a huge collection of the awkward but facial expressions I make. Declined interview. Take 1,000 photos of your face staring at the monitor, install a virtual webcam software and run those photos in an endless loop. You are now invisible. We're like family here. Utter bollocks. Every single time. It's invariably a way of trying to manipulate you into doing things not in your contract or against labor law. Didn't even get to the interview. Got a call to set up interview. I say okay, I can do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He says I need you to come in today. Okay. I need a job so I say I can try. Where do I need to go? He was an hour away by car. I said I couldn't and he got all huffy. Like dude, if you're this crappy when I don't work for you I don't even want to know how you treat employees. If they need you to interview right now, and then they need you to start working for them right now, absolutely do not accept their job offer unless you are absolutely desperate. Interviewer has visible anger issues with other staff. I encountered this at the beginning of my career. They didn't hire me, which was good. I've legit watched a manager unleash on his workers not knowing I could see him because I was early to my interview. Coincidentally, I took the job just because I knew it would be short term, and my friend worked there. I was once asked during a job interview about my tolerance to verbal abuse. When the person noticed that I was a bit taken aback by the question, he quickly followed up and said that keep in mind that he was asking about verbal abuse and not physical abuse. I immediately realized that this would not be a job for me and I excused myself from further consideration for the position. As long as it's just verbal abuse. Physical abuse is where I draw the line, but verbal abuse is fine. When you walk through the site and you don't see a single person smiling, I don't mean those fake customer service smiles, either. If everyone there looks miserable I'm out. Life is too short for that. Even worse, when a couple of people shake their head no when you make eye contact with them. In a lot of industries, we work really long hours sometimes. So we're really looking for someone who's willing to put in the hours and is interested in making a bigger impact is code for we're looking for someone to sacrifice their weekends on the altar of our arbitrary goals and expectations because we can't be bothered to pay a second person for this role. It is the ole we work hard and we play hard deal. That just means everyone works long hours and then goes out to happy hour once a week. Happy hour slowly becomes something that kind of feels like more work and something that you are obligated to go. I used to be in commercial fishing, and one of my first skippers gave me this advice. When you're checking out a potential boat to take a position or make sure to look in the engine room first. If it's neat, clean, and orderly then that's a solid boat to work on. If it's filthy, cluttered, and in disarray then get off the boat and don't take the job. Please expand. I'm interested to know the reasoning behind this. Most of my work has been lineman work for cable telephone providers and driving trucks, and if they start asking about prior workers' comp claims I'm out. Have had owners ask me if I got hurt would I allow them to let them take care of it and keep the government out it. Yay, no way. We lax on safety and unwilling to improve, so we'd rather cover up problems than prevent them. Your health and well-being mean nothing to us. Anyone using the phrase work hard and play hard during the interview? I once asked what, exactly, do you mean by play hard with air quotes around play hard? The interviewer was befuddled and then said something like we get donuts and bagels once per quarter. Man, talk about living on the fricking edge. Last year I declined an offer to work at a company with a couple of friends for 2 reasons. 1. As part of the interview process, I had to complete an assignment and I hated the assignment. 2. I got a vibe from my friends that they weren't super happy at the company. Since turning down the offer, both of the friends have complained to me about their boss and one of them told me that their unlimited PTO policy basically doesn't mean anything because they don't get to take much time off. Yay, the Updoot is a trap. You get great reviews, take a few days off and then notice the reviews are not as stellar anymore. People who visibly show they haven't looked at your resume. I have no issues go in depth about my experience or things that may need clarification, but to blatantly not know anything about the person interviewing shows they don't even value their potential employees at a minimum. I've interviewed way too many people that didn't know what they had on their own resume. Asking for a fee before you can get started. Jobs pay you. Pyramid schemes ask you to buy their crap up front and sell them. Stress interview. I walked into one of these for a PhD interview. They deliberately were abrasive and unhelpful to the point of callousness, including tossing my entire proposal out the window. After proposing a different approach, I then got criticized for not reading up on a proposal that they had given to me in the interview. Also my lack of skills for such an approach. Again given to me in the dang interview. I was happy to change approach, but I can't generate years worth of experience in a click of my fingers. They ended up offering me a position, but without funding. Then I asked them if they had any ideas on where to apply for funding for this niche area. No response. I just ignored them after that. If anyone tries that on me in a job, I am walking straight out the door. Life is too short for such nonsense. If they ask if you are on medications and if so, what medications and why? That's definitely illegal where I live. I explained that I was in school and outlined my availability. He asked if I was fine skipping all of my classes on Thursdays because that's when they need me. Years ago I was about to be hired to work full-time in a car parts factory. I was at a second interview when the interviewer told me that upon being hired I would need to see a doctor once every 3 months and sign a bunch of paperwork basically stating that if I got any respiratory or reproductive illness as a result of working around the fumes in that factory that I understood and took full accountability for the consequences. I left and never went back. That sounds illegal. If I hear the culture is work hard play hard I am out. That translates into we beat you like a rented mule and then throw a half-assed Christmas party with a limited open bar. The interviewer was selling me on taking the job more than I was selling myself on getting the job. The interviewer gave me feedback on revising my resume, offered to advance me to the next interview round and coach me on how to handle the interview, etc. Never been offered that much support before or since. Really put me on the guard and I turned down the job. About a year later, I ran into her while having lunch at a restaurant. I actually didn't recognize her at first because she had a big smile on her face but was dead serious during my job interview. She admitted that company had been a stressful place to work. She now worked somewhere else and was much happier. For me it's the schedules. Someone offered me a job where I would have to often do 12-hour shifts and have meetings until 11 PM. All of this for minimum wage. I am 46, I can't do 12-hour shifts on my feet all day anymore. They ask a lot of questions about something on your resume that isn't really relevant to the job you're applying for or of interest to you, and hint that they want you to do that as well. If it's something you don't mind or actually enjoy, that's fine, but be careful of getting locked into a role different from the one you interviewed for. Would you be willing to give up a few vacation days to help out some of your fellow co-workers finish their work? Lol, nope. Oh heck no. That's just management being too cheap to hire enough people. We do more with less. Translated, we will overwork and not pay you for it. We're a human-sized company with a great startup spirit and paid extra hours and micromanagement. That's like the definition of sugarcoating a really crappy job and wearing many hats. Many years back I interviewed as a shipping manager for a manufacturing company. During the interview they were really insistent about hiring someone who was very experienced with their network of freight carriers. They used UPS. I only had FedEx experience at the time. They had a few next flight out couriers they used, but I was totally unfamiliar with them. I had used different couriers in the past, but not the ones they had under contract. Throughout the interview they stated several times that they needed someone who could hit the ground running. It really sounded like this company was not going to have any patience with me to learn any new systems or procedures. I thought the interview was a waste of time based on what they saw on my resume. The lack of patience I perceived from the interview panel was a big red flag for me. They called me the next day and offered me the job. It was a real shock. I turned it down, and it shocked them as well. I didn't have the necessary experience with their carrier network, and from the interview I felt they were not going to allow any kind of learning curve. I felt like I would have been setting myself up for failure. Had an interview where the interviewer said, so you probably made what, like $40K last year? I had made double that and knew if I went with this company I'd only make a little more than $40K. If he hadn't said that I probably would have taken the job. One thing I experienced was as follows. The manager met me at my job and said I seemed like I would have a knack for the line of work he's in. I, being unhappy in my current job, perked up hoping this would be a good transition opportunity. First red flag, he didn't tell me to come by an office job location for an interview, but to meet up for lunch. Again, I, being young and naive, didn't see anything wrong with that. Fast forward to the lunch, I began to notice what was going on, but didn't want to be rude. Second red flag, the guy tried not to mention the company name. Toward the end of the interview he asked me, so, on a scale on 1-10, what's your interest level? And I asked him the name of the company, and once he told me, I let him know that I was going to research the company to see if I wanted to continue with the process. Long story short, the company was Primerica, which in my opinion is the worst MLM scheme I know of. If you do a little research, I'm sure you'll agree. Once I showed up for an interview in an office building that turned out to be Primerica. Once I realized what it was, I got up to leave and an employee there just happened to walk by and said, you'd give us a good feeling. I hope you'll be a part of our team. So I smiled, said thank you, and stole every single one of their magazines on display, and just walked out. I turned one down when I noticed the average age of employees was about 20 plus years older than me, but at the same time the entire department I would be working for had turned over in the last 6 months. Still that much older than me. I am not sure what that points to, but I noped out of there quick. Probably a place that took seniority very seriously and nobody wanted to fight with people who've been there forever. Good call though. My friend calls it a firing squad when you walk into an interview and you're seated in front of multiple people who just start shooting off questions at you. No conversation, no emotion, nothing to make you feel at ease. Strictly Q&A. After years at a company, I went on my first interview. Very rusty. They wouldn't even ask me to expand on certain points. I was discouraged until I went on another one that was 1000x better. Just me and a few people sitting at a round table discussing my skills and such. I learned the former kind of interview is one at a place I don't want to work at. I hate multiple interviewers. One is asking a question. One is analyzing your response to tear it down. One is thinking up the next question. It feels a lot like you're getting gangbanged. When the information the job interviewer gives you doesn't even match the job listing. When they make you sit at 2 different rooms for a good 30 minutes before it starts. Job hunting can be one of the most demoralizing process to go through. When the HR interviewer has a huge fake smile, but while they led me to the meeting room where the technical part will take place, I see a lot of burned out people with dead eyes and zombie-like faces. Unless you're at the point in your career where people actively hunt you, which you'll know if that's the case, an interviewer making a pitch means run. For most of us, interviews are when we try and convince the employer we're worth hiring. You get some smiley interviewer selling you the job, then get the heck out now. I study history and I work for a gardener to earn some money. Once, I applied for a job in an archive because the job would have a lot more to do with my major. The interview was terrible. They made me talk about gardening for nearly an hour. Interviews usually last 30 minutes where I live. I wanted to talk about my achievements in history because of the obvious connection to the archive, but all they wanted to know was how to trim trees and hedges. Also, they said that I'd have to be there at 8 AM to work and emphasize on how early that is and asked if I could handle that. When I said yes, they didn't believe me. I start gardening at 7.50. So, a lot of these weird questions. There's a big company in my province. Apparently they have pretty strict interviews, but in the end you have to meet the CEO and you get to talk to him about whatever topic comes up. Friend of a friend talked about clitoris for 45 minutes. He got the job. I had an interviewer once that went ballistic on me when she found out I was engaged. She started off asking me when we were having the wedding and then went nuts, telling me that people have gotten divorced over this position and I needed to seriously consider it. I told her I had already talked the position over with my fiance and we were both prepared for it. She said I needed to talk it over again because there was no way we were ready. Nope the frick out after that. I went to have a job interview today for a second job. Definitely don't need it, but it's nice for some extra disposable income. The interviewers were way too intimidating from the start and treated me like I'm just the next guy in line without a job, sitting in my couch all day, which is not the case. They knew my situation. I got out of there quick. When I make a suggestion after they tell me their biggest challenge and their answer is why reinvent the wheel or something along those lines. They are secretly Cutco. 2 interviews I saw fights break out between staff. One was a heated discussion between a staffer saying he was going to quit and an abusive manager saying he wouldn't do it because he was a coward. His family would be disappointed in him, and he always says he's going to but never follows through because he was chicken crap. We were just passing by the office kitchen where this was occurring on the way to be interviewed. I was told to ignore them, that those two had problems. I have no idea if those people would be in my management chain, but I didn't pass the interview anyway, and I didn't really care that they didn't call me back. There was a lot that went wrong in that interview, but that was the first red flag. The second was an interview where there was no mouse on the test computer where I was supposed to show that I knew how to set up an OS instance. The guy who was interviewing me wandered around the office for a while, came back with a wireless mouse, and while I was using it someone came into the meeting room where we were interviewing and took the mouse back from me forcefully. He looked at the guy who was interviewing me and angrily told him that it was his mouse that he had brought from home because they didn't have enough mice in the office, and to get one of his own, the interviewer had to find another mouse. That was a company undergoing a buyout, and everybody was pretty much at everyone's throats. I told the recruiter who sent me there about the entire experience and said I wouldn't accept the job if they offered it to me. I ended up accepting another job before they ever got back to me, but I got feedback that I interviewed quite well, even though I failed pretty much every test they gave me. Had an interview at a mortgage lender a few months back. The last 2 questions of the interview were what is our CEO's name and where did he play college basketball, as if I was supposed to be in total awe of the 4 minutes per game he averaged in 2 years on a Division I basketball team. A group interview. Even if you do a one-on-one segment, it's not usually a good sign to have a bunch of people scheduled at the same time in one room. He asked me, on the phone, whether I was good looking. He asked me what my body was like, etc. I was like, okay, I'm going to hang up now. This was a job advertised in the London Evening Standard, a respected newspaper. They were really pissed off when I told them, and this guy must have realized he crossed a line because he wouldn't answer the phone when they tried to get in touch. What pisses me off is that I was so desperate for work that I stayed on that phone a few moments longer than I should have instead of telling him to K off straight away. I hate it when people in a position of power abuse it. Company flew me up, put me in a hotel. I get to the interview 20 minutes early for an early afternoon interview. I check in 10 minutes early and I'm told that I missed the interview. We changed the time to first thing this morning. Someone called you, left a message. I show them my phone. No missed calls, no voicemail. No, we left a message on your hotel answering machine earlier this morning, but the hotel phone didn't ring this morning. I didn't leave until mid-morning for breakfast. We sent it right to voicemail. Didn't want to wake you after your flight last night. Didn't you notice the flashing red light? Nope, just the red flags. This cat is shocked that you haven't liked this video yet. Like it fast so they can calm down. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.